Hello friends, I'm here today to share with you my top reads of 2022. This is gonna be kind of a long list, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The first set that I have are kind of what I consider the runner-ups for my favorites. These are all given 5 stars, but I just don't think that they're favorites. I don't know how to say that any other way. So first up is the Savage Pride duet by Jill Ramsauer. This is a Mafia Pride and Prejudice retelling. That is exactly what it is. Next up is Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a fantasy romance about two people who have been... There's a sickness taking over the kingdom. They've been kind of smuggling the antidote to the sickness, and then like something happens and the main character finds out the guy that she's had a crush on, the guy that's been helping her, is actually one of the princes of the kingdom. Next is Redeeming Lottie by Melissa Ellen. This is a super sweet small town second chance romance. I believe it's a single dad. Yes, single dad. Then is Tutoring the Player by Rebecca Jinchak. This is a new adult hockey romance. The main character thinks that she has a crush on one hockey guy and then ends up in class with him and his friend, and then ends up actually falling for his friend. Next was Her Wicked Marquess by Stacey Reed. This one is about Marianne, who decides she doesn't want to get married, and so she uses Nicholas, the Marquess of Rothbury, as kind of a way to ruin herself. She says that like he snuck out of her window and that they're together, and he goes along with it. Next, I want to mention Seduction of a Highland Lass by Maya Banks. This is in... I don't remember what the... McCabe Men series? I forget what the series is called. But this one is about Alaric, who has kind of decided, like, kind of resigned himself to marrying for the clan on his way to go meet his bride. He is ambushed and falls off of his horse, and then Keely, who is an outcast from her clan, like, kind of saves him and takes care of him, and they fall in love, and it's about the struggle between wanting to help his clan versus wanting what his heart wants. Next, I want to mention Scandal in Spring by Lisa Kleypas. This is in her Wallflower series. This is about Daisy, who is actually an American in London, and her father tells her she has got to pick a husband by the end of the season, or she's going to marry his business associate, Matthew. Well, she and Matthew don't really get along. He has kind of had a crush on her and always tends to say the wrong thing to her. And then while she is trying to find a husband that isn't him, he is pursuing her and kind of showing her, the benefits that he could offer her. Next, I want to mention Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is book 2 in the Bellinger Sisters series. This one is Fox and Hannah. It's a friends to lovers. It's a forced proximity because Hannah moves in with Fox while she is back in... I forget what the town is called. She's back there for work. So she moves in with him because there's no room at her sister's house. And yeah, it was cute. I liked it a lot. Next, I want to mention the Uptown Girls series by Joanna Shoup. I gave all of these 5 stars, I believe. I guess we'll do The Rogue of Fifth Avenue, The Prince of Broadway, and The Devil of Downtown. These are sisters. It's Gilded Age. In New York City, I had a lot of fun reading this. And also A Daring Pursuit by Kate Bateman. This is in her Ruthless Rivals series. This one is Karis and Tristan. Karis has decided that she is not ever going to get married. There is nothing that a marriage could offer her that she wants. But Tristan sets out to make it his mission to prove her wrong, that there is something that she would want from it. I also want to mention Scarred by Emily McIntyre. This is a dark retelling of Scar from The Lion King. It's kind of a darker royalty story. The scarred character is the second son, Prince, and so he's kind of battling with his brother that became king when their dad died, and he starts falling for the princess that is sent to marry his brother. The last runner-up that I want to mention is 'Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth. This book blew up with good reason. It was so fun. It was so good. It's about a woman whose boyfriend, who she thinks is going to propose, actually breaks up with her at Halloween, and she decides to get revenge on him by dating his boss and trying to score an invite to the big company party that he would never take her to. And when she starts dating this boss, y'all, he is so sexy. He is an older guy, silver fox type. Okay, so now we are to the ones that I actually consider favorites. The first one is 50 Ways to Win Back Your Lover by Kelly Siskind. This is like nothing I've read before. So this is a second chance, but they were high school sweethearts, and then they were pulled apart rather abruptly because his family had to go into witness protection. His dad had been doing some shady things for a mafia family, or like the cartel or something. And so they, like, his family leaves rather abruptly. And I think it's like 10 years later, they are given the all clear that everybody who could want them dead is gone. So the first little bit of the book, it doesn't last long. It's him and his family trying to decide where to go from there. Do they go back to their original lives? Do they stay living the life that they've been living for the past 10 years? Where can they balance out those two things? Well, the main character decides he's going back to the small town where they grew up at because he wants to see the love of his life again. So he goes back there, and it's this whole thing of where he can't really explain what's happening yet. But he tells her, and then like everybody in the town is like defending her because they think that they just left. They think the family just left and didn't ever look back. But yeah, this one is so good. I really liked it. There is a lot about the old life versus the new life versus balancing it out to try to have a future. I really liked all the conversations around that because they weren't the same people they were when they were 17 or whenever. Next is Aphrodite and the Duke by J.J. McAvoy. I just recently read this one, and I think it's definitely a favorite. This one is about Aphrodite and Tristan, and when they are, I think it was like the first year that Aphrodite was out in society, Tristan promises her that he's going to come on this day to ask her parents for permission to marry her. Well, Aphrodite waits all day and Tristan doesn't show up. And then the next she hears from him is when when his wedding invitation to another woman shows up. So Aphrodite is just heartbroken. She goes and spends, I want to say like 3 years hidden away in the country. She refuses to be a part of society. And then her mom sends for her to come back and join the family, to come back and find a husband, because her mom knows that Tristan's wife has died and that he is coming back to town, back to London. And then, yeah, that is all Tristan wants, is to, when he's back, is to find Aphrodite, get her to forgive him for what happened. And we learn all of what happened, and there's this other kind of side plot of his brother and kind of mischievous things that his brother has done. And yes, this captivated me. The writing is so beautiful. I can't wait to read more from J.J. McAvoy. I hope she writes more historicals. But yeah, I adored this. I want to mention 2 books in the Madigan Mountain series. I have those backwards. Book 1, A Little Too Late by Serena Bowen, and Book 2, A Little Too Close by Rebecca Yarros. The Madigan Mountain series are about brothers who due to their mom dying when they were teenagers, they don't have the best memories of home. Their dad went into a deep depression and was unable to take care of them. So they all really have issues about being back on the mountain, but due to different reasons, they are drawn back there. Book 1, A Little Too Late, is a second chance. What was his name? I forget which one was which. Book 1 is Reed. He shows back up because he hears that his father is selling the mountain, and so he wants to like make sure they get the best deal and say good riddance. And then when he gets there, his father's assistant is his college girlfriend, who he didn't handle very well when he decided to break up with her. He went about it very wrong. And then book 2, A Little Too Close, is Weston, and he is called home by Reed to start a kind of a helicopter skiing venture for the resort, and the only place to put him is kind of in a duplex with this single mom, and then they kind of spend a lot of time together, so they fall for each other as well. I want to mention all 3 of the Elsie Silver books that I read this year. The first one and only one I have is Flawless. I also read Off to the Races and Photo Finish. These are all small town Canadian romances. Flawless is a bull rider, and the agent, I forget exactly what she is, but she's sent to like keep him under control. And then Off to the Races and Photo Finish are centered around a racehorse farm. So good. I'm sure you will see probably Flawless more on a bunch of these lists. But I think once people start getting to the Gold Rush Ranch series, on a lot of favorites lists as well. I also would like to mention Look the Part by Julie Ann. This is about a single dad and a music therapist that moves into the building like below his office. And one day his son, they kind of get off on the wrong foot because he doesn't really, I guess he didn't realize that a music therapist would have music playing, and he thinks that it's disturbing him and he's not able to get work done. But it's really her that is distracting him from his work, and she has a really cute relationship with his son. And y'all know we had to have a Bergman on here somewhere. Everything for You by Chloe Leese. So good. So this one is Gavin and Oliver. They are teammates on the soccer team. They are neighbors. Gavin he's getting older, and so he's kind of in a spot where he's having to decide if continuing to play soccer is worth the pain that it causes him. And they are put together as co-captains for the team. And it's just so good. Honestly, books 1 and 2 in the Bergman series were top notch. I loved them. Books 3 and 4 were a little bit of a letdown for me, but this brought it back to like the feeling that the first 2 Bergman brothers books gave me, and yeah, I just really enjoyed this one. Next is Indigo Ridge by Devney Perry. This is the first in her Eden series. This one is about Winslow, who moves to the small town of Quincy due to a little bit of nepotism. Her grandfather is like the mayor or something. She ends up as the sheriff, and one of her first nights there, she goes to the tourist bar and has a one-night stand with this guy who she thinks is a tourist, but come to find out he is the son of the like major prominent family in town. And then there's a death on his family's land, and everybody's telling her that it's a place where people go to unalive themselves, but she has this feeling that that's not entirely true. So a lot of the conflict is her investigating people that are close to him because she's new to town, and this happened happened on his parents' land. And so this one is a small town with a bit of a mystery suspense element into it. But yeah, it's so good. I mentioned book 2 to the series and the runner-ups, but I definitely think A Reckless Match by Kate Bateman is one of my favorites from the year. This one is Madeline and Griff. Their families, the whole series, the families are rivals. They've been rivals for generations. They have this plot of land that like it overlaps onto both of their lands or something, and so every like so often members of the family have to go to this location and have to meet, and if one of them doesn't show up, it is forfeited to the other family, and Griff and Madeline are sent to go meet each other, and then while they're there they discover this kind of like mystery about the land and then work together to try to figure out the mystery and what could be happening, and then while they're doing that they get incredibly close. Next I want to mention book 2 in the Stay a Spell series, Don't Hex and Drive by Juliet Cross. This one is Isadora and Devraj, I think. Isadora is one of the witch sisters that the series is centered around. Devraj is a vampire who has come to New Orleans because of all of the supernatural stuff that happened in book 1. He's come to find out like what's happening, and he and Isadora team up, or are teamed up, because there's a bit more happening that all of the supernaturals weren't really aware of in book 1, and so they are put together to try to find out what's happening. My favorite historical of the year was Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. This takes place in post-Civil War New Orleans. Belinda is a teacher and she is trying to start up a school for the young black children in New Orleans to have a place to go, but she is post-Civil War obviously running into some issues, and then Drake he's like sees her being attacked one night and comes to her rescue, and then after they get to talking he finds himself really drawn to her because she's a really strong woman, and then he thinks that he could help her start her school, and yeah, it's super sweet. I loved it a lot. There's a super cute scene where he like takes her home to meet his mom, and I adored it. Next I want to mention The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This is book 1 in her Dreamland Billionaire series. The series is about a group of brothers whose grandfather started kind of a Disney theme park type company, and after the grandfather has passed, the 3 grandsons are trying to keep the company out of their father's hands, while they were all given little tasks that they have to do. And this one, book 1, is Rowan, who is sent to the theme park. He's got to like run it for a year or something. I forget exactly what the task is. But while he's there, he meets Zara, and she works for the theme park, and she works at like in the theme park, and he like puts her into a more office role, a little bit more having to do with running the theme park as opposed to working in it. And yeah, I really like this. There is a tiny bit of a catfishing element. She's good at the ideas, but she can't really draw it, and so she thinks that she's sending her ideas to someone else and someone else is drawing them, but it's actually him. But I don't think that it lasted too long. I haven't heard a lot of people mention it, but just in case you don't like that, there is that element in there. But yeah, I adore Disney. We're going again in a couple of weeks. So yeah, the series was written for me, honestly. I liked this one a lot more than book 2. Book 2 has a better trope in it for me, but I think I liked that this one actually took place in the theme park. Next, I want to talk about Ivy by Willa Nash. This is Deputy Perry's pen name. This one centers around 3 roommates. They all have their secrets. They're all trying to work out college and moving on to adulthood from college. And yeah, there's 3 romances. They all end with a happily, at least happily for now. But yeah, this one is so good. So good. Next is The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This is book 2 in this Devil series. I don't really know what it's called. This one is about Drew, who decides to go on a vacation with her ex and his family, just because she thinks that she needs to work things out with the ex, that they need to get back together. And when she gets to Hawaii, where the family vacation is at, his family is there and he is not. He's been detained in Tokyo, I think, and was unable to make his flight. Well, she ends up spending a lot of time and falling for his brother. And then, like, after the vacation, it's them working out her being a rock star, and he is part of this, like, Doctors Without Borders group, and he basically lives in a third world country. Next is The Bluff by Willa Nash, Debney Perry's pen name. This one is in her Calamity Montana series. This is book 2. It's a marriage of convenience. Reese is trying to get custody of his teenage daughter, but due to spending time in prison, he doesn't look the best to a judge. And he is having kind of a with benefits situation with Everly, and she overhears his lawyer like make a joke about if he was married, then he would have a better shot of custody, and she decides that she wants to marry him so that he can get custody, and yeah, it's a marriage of convenience. Then Reason to Believe by Rebecca Yarros. This is in her Legacy series. There are 2 novellas before this one, and then this is the book 1. This one is Knox and Harper. Harper runs kind of a preschool, and then one day she's like waiting for the parents to show up or whatever, and then these 2 little boys are left and she can't find their mom. Well, a social worker shows up and says that the mom has been in an accident and she is gone. They're trying to find the kid's father. They're trying to find the mom's family, somebody that could take them in. Well, Harper asks, can she keep them until either of those people are found, because the town has like 1 foster family, but they're out of town or something. And so she goes through kind of a quick evaluation and approval to be the foster parent for these 2 kids. But I don't remember if there's something wrong with her apartment or if it was just small. So she asked Knox, her brother's best friend, if they can stay at his house that he's not moved into yet, until they can. I guess there's something wrong with her apartment because she asked if they can stay until her apartment's good. So yeah, she and the 2 little boys are living in Knox's house when he moves home early, and it's kind of a forced proximity because he doesn't want them to leave. And so they kind of fall for each other over co-parenting these 2 little boys, and it's so good. I loved it so much. It's a firefighter romance. It is super emotional, but yeah. I also want to mention Heartbreaker by Sarah McLean. This is book 2 in her Hell's Bells series. So Adelaide is known as the matchbreaker. When young girls are promised into a marriage that they don't want to be in, they call her, and she and her group find ways for them to get out of these weddings. Well, this one young girl that they're trying to save, she ends up running off with the guy that she actually likes to Scotland to elope, and it turns out that it is Henry's brother, and Adelaide and Henry have had a few run-ins at that point, but like for their own reasons they're trying to catch up with his brother and the girl, and they decide to go together because that will save time. I don't really remember why they decided to go together, but yeah, this one is so good. It's a road trip. There's a lot of banter because they're both trying to catch up with them, but they think it's for different reasons, but it's not really different reasons. They just have different ways of going about it. But yeah, super good. And we're almost at the end, but we could not have a favorites list without Catherine Cowles. Falling Embers was definitely my favorite. I only read the Tattered and Torn series this year. So this one is Hadley and Calder. Calder is a single father firefighter. Hadley has this YouTube channel, I think it's like YouTube, where she does like extreme stunts and posts them for people to watch. Hadley and Calder's, I think it's 2 daughters, are very close, and she spends a lot of time with them, but he's always hesitant to take that step because of, I don't like saying this, but because I feel like how reckless she is. And then something happens towards the beginning of the book, and he's tired of pretending that he doesn't want to like doesn't want her, but it takes Hadley a little bit to reconcile with herself the recklessness that kind of everybody around her tells her she has. So yeah, this one was definitely my favorite in the series. And finally, the last book, or the last series that I want to mention, is the Grip Trilogy by Kennedy Ryan. I mentioned this in the wrap up. I'm not gonna lie, this one was a rough start for me. I didn't think much of either of the characters in the novella that started it. And then towards the beginning of book one, it was a little rough for me. I'm not gonna lie, these were very flawed characters, and I guess I just didn't expect that. But one of my favorite things is over the course of even just book one, it was a lot of character growth individually, but like the individual character growth was what like fit them together so perfectly. Yeah, I just think that this is like an epic love story. I loved it. So those are my favorites from 2022. If you read any of these, let me know what you thought about them down below. If there's any you want to check out, leave those as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.